Welcome to the No Mom is an Island podcast. As moms, we often long for moments of being alone, but the truth is sometimes we feel downright lonely. The intention of this podcast is to show you that you aren't alone, that we all experience similar things along this mothering journey. If you enjoy this podcast, please stay tuned after the interview to hear of 3 easy ways you can help this podcast continue. You can also find those ways listed in the episode description below. Well, multitasking masters, whatever you are doing while you listen to this podcast, we hope you enjoy hearing the story of another mom. Today we welcome Stephanie. Hello, Stephanie. How are you today?
Good. How are you?
Good. Enjoying the sunshine. Is it sunny where you are too?
It is sunny, but it's deceivingly sunny because it's about 46 degrees out. So
Okay.
It feels wonderful when you're inside until you walk out, and then it's still brisk.
Yeah, it is. It's a bit chilly here too, even though the sun is shining brightly. So, but I guess
we'll take it over the liquid sunshine we had. That
absolutely.
Liquid sunshine for 5 days is rough.
Yes, and that's kind of what spring is, right? And we have days,
Exactly.
Warm days, cold days.
Exactly. Yes.
All right. Well, thank you for being willing to be interviewed. Why don't you tell us about your family?
All right. My family is a blended family, actually. My husband, Greg, and I have both had the unfortunate privilege of walking through the dark days of divorce. Each of our spouses left for different reasons. And 5 years ago, in December, we will have been married. Blending our families took a little bit of work. Our kids adjusted well, but we have a lot of kids. So we went from my own 4 children. I married into 3 more. So our family consists of Greg and myself. And then Sebastian is 24. Sydney is 21. That's a girl. Sage is 18. And Kaylee is 12. Austin is 11. Ariana is 10. And Connor is 8. So 4 girls and 3 boys. And up until last August, they all lived in our home with us. Right now, Sebastian has moved out into his own apartment, doing the whole adulting thing. And so we only have 6 of the 7 kids at our house right now.
Wow, that is quite the household full. That's a lot of people to blend, and figure all those things out. I'm glad to hear that it was smooth, considering how many there are.
Yeah, actually, I don't think that anyone that met us and did not know our past history of being a blended family would recognize that our kids have, it's incredible what the Lord has done. They are my oldest daughter, Sydney, and then Sage, and then Kaylee, the the oldest of the ones I've birthed, is super tight with her older sisters. And it's going to be hard for her next year because they're planning to go to Cedarville. So it's going to be a tough transition, but
yes.
It's just incredible to see the bond they've established.
That's amazing. And, it's really neat when you see God working in your children's lives through difficult seasons in your own life too. You recognize and you see what God's doing in your life, but it's such an amazing privilege when we also can see what He's doing in our children's lives.
Exactly.
All right. So why don't you give us your perspective on mothering?
Well, my perspective on mothering kind of is, for good, bad, or ugly, they're not mine to mess up. I fully believe that they are the Lord's kids and they're on loan to me. And that encourages me on the days where I feel like I'm a hot mess and what am I doing? And it also encourages me on the days that I think I have my act together and then it all falls apart. I know that I can never be a perfect mom, but obviously the Lord entrusted these 7 kids to me to do the best that I could, training and guiding them to hopefully fall in love with the Lord and spend their life serving Him.
Well said.
I do believe that mothering is not a math equation, though. A lot of times we feel like if we do this plus this, we can guarantee an outcome. And it is heartbreaking as a mom to know that regardless of if I do all the right steps, our children still in the end, the outcome of their life is in their hands. And so as a mom of young adult children, it's sometimes hard to remember that it doesn't mean we did something wrong if they don't take the choices in life that we would hope for them.
Right. Very true. Yeah, those are hard things to notice. My children are almost all teenagers now. I have one that's 11. And I've noticed as they get older, those moments where you're like, oh, I so hope they choose the right thing. Unlike when they were little and I could make them choose the right thing. I don't have that same control anymore, and the stakes are higher, and it's heart-wrenching sometimes, or terrifying sometimes, and yet yeah, they have, as they grow into adults, they have to own those things for themselves.
Exactly. Yep.
And then you have the equation of the different personalities too, like where it's not the same things don't work for or communicate the same way to one child as it does to another child.
Exactly. Yep. That is a big factor in the equation.
Yeah.
No manual. They don't come with a manual.
Right.
It would be so much easier if they did.
Well, I feel like it's not even possible because every manual would be, there's so many variations. So
exactly. Well, that's why I think each of the individual kids, if they came with a manual, we'd have it down, right?
Right. But then the manual would also need to change as they got older, or have segments for different stages of life as they got older too.
Very true. Very true.
Well, that kind of leads into, since they don't come with a manual, we kind of, as moms, whether we realize it or not, develop kind of like philosophies of parenting that we apply those philosophies in the varying situations, regardless of the personality that we're dealing with too. So what would you say is your philosophy when it comes to mothering?
I would say that I have very recently been tapping into really trying to figure out what my philosophy is. And I would think I probably would say more is caught than is taught. I'm finding that leading by example and demonstrating what I would like my children to be doing is crucial. Otherwise, I am losing all credibility.
Right.
For example, my one daughter, Kaylee, tends to be like I was, and it's not what she says, it's the tone of voice that she says it in. But I'm finding that if I am constantly speaking harsh when I'm upset, or the tone of voice I'm using is not correct, then how am I supposed to correct her later and say, Kaylee, it's not what you're saying, it's the tone you're saying it in, when I just demonstrated the exact opposite. So I'm finding that I need to lead by example, and my words are not near as important as my actions.
Right. Yeah, there's almost nothing worse than scolding your child and then having it dawn on you that the thing that they did was something that they learned from you. It's like, oh, no. It's like, I know where they got that. Crud.
Yes, I completely agree. And it's sometimes scary. It feels like you're looking in the mirror when you see them.
Right. Yeah, and it comes down to, like it's not just about, the things that we say, but it's also the things that we are doing. And it's kind of a daunting thing when you think about it. It's hard to do, but I also think it also gives us redemptive moments where we get to also model contrition, forgiveness, repentance, all of those things too, which obviously those are humbling, but our children need to know how to do those things too.
And they need to see that everybody has bad moments and has to ask for forgiveness.
Right.
It's not just to outgrow it at a certain point.
Right.
We all have our lesser stellar moments, and we have to own up to them and try to learn from them and change so that they know that we're human too.
Right. And that in our instruction to them that we're not looking for perfection, because we aren't perfect either. And so even though I hate those parts of the lessons, I can also see how God uses those in my parenting also.
Exactly, yes.
All right, what has been your favorite thing to teach your children or watch them learn? And this can be a variety of things. You have a variety of children, so perhaps it's more than one thing, depending on the stage of your children. But what has been your favorite?
The one that comes to mind first is going to be very similar for all the kids right now. This past spring break, we actually had the opportunity to fly to Honduras to visit my sister-in-law and brother-in-law down there. And our travel was less than perfect. It was during that Atlanta storm when all those flights were canceled, and we got to Honduras 2 days late, and our luggage came 2 days later. So 4 days without bags was interesting. And traveling with that many people, my mother-in-law and father-in-law had went with us, so a group of 11 is not easy to reschedule. So all of that factored in, and then going to a country where they have nothing. And it is just eye-opening. My kids, we had kind of prepped them ahead of time what they were going to see, and it has even been a joke in our house somewhat leading up to the trip, they can't find their charger for their tablet. First world problems. And they would tease each other about that. But going down there and seeing, we are in gated, at the seminary grounds we stayed at, we're gated, razor wire fence. There's guard dogs. There's not safe drinking water when we're off of the seminary grounds. Just kids that live in shanties. We went to visit the neighbors and shared the gospel with them, and just seeing how much our kids have, I thought, I really hope that this makes an impact on them. But you can only tell them so many things. I mean, like I said, they have to witness it and experience it, and it has to hit a soft heart for that to impact. So we fast forward, we get back from our 12-day trip, which was really only 10 days, and we decided the most important thing to my in-laws, who had made this whole trip possible financially, would be a personal letter from each of us, my husband, myself, and each of the kids individually, instead of just signing names on a thank you card or anything like that. And getting to read back over the kids' letters and hearing them say they're so thankful to live in a country where they can go to church freely, and they have safe water to drink, and they have a house to live in, and they get to live at a camp that gets to share the gospel with people. All these things, to know how fortunate they are. Because let's be honest, not only our kids, but myself included, we are often ungrateful and entitled human beings.
Right.
And so just to get the opportunity to witness alongside them learning how fortunate we are to live where we live and have the life that we've been blessed with, it was an incredible experience.
It sounds like it. On the other side, then, what's your least favorite thing to teach them or watch them learn?
My least favorite thing to teach them is consistency. I am a person who is going 100 miles an hour in about 12 different directions. And so sometimes it is easier just to keep warning that child than to actually get up and do something about carrying out, if you make a threat that if they don't clean their room, you're going to take a trash bag and throw it all away. You know what? Then I need to get up and do that. I don't need to just sit there and warn. I just need to be consistent that when I say something, then I'm going to hold them accountable to whatever has been requested and threatened, I guess you would say. And I am very often struggling to be consistent.
You're 100 miles an hour in 12 different directions. Did you find that to be the case before you were at camp, or has it gotten worse since you've been at camp?
Yes and yes. I would say it was the case before I was at camp, in the aspect that my kids were all involved in several different things. They'd be in dance, they'd be in sporting events. We would be going to Awana and to church and all these different areas. As far as since we've been at camp, it's gotten a little bit more difficult, I would say. This year has been a year of transition. We went from 4 permanent staff at camp to my husband and I at camp.
Right.
And so we are filling lots of roles. We just hired a program director, but they don't move here till the beginning of June. So between office work and food service and building cabins.
It's a lot.
It's a lot, yeah.
I feel you.
We're thankful for volunteers that pitch in.
Right.
But it's definitely stretched just a lot thinner this past year. So we joke that we're doing about, like I said, 112 things, about 4% of the way well, and the rest is just, to get by for now.
Right. That's hard. And it makes it even harder to be consistent in times like that, because you don't have the time. When I'm in those circumstances, I really I don't want to have to deal with the being consistent. I just want them to do what I asked them to do the first time, because I don't have time for the follow-up. And so that that consistency feels so much heavier, because it's like, I don't have time for you not to comply. Really just need you to play along right now, please.
Yes, that's 100% exactly right.
Yes. All right. What would you list as a high moment in parenting?
This is a hard one. I would say probably for me, one of the high moments was, obviously recently is what comes to mind because my memory right now is shot. The day that we got up at 3 a.m., Good Friday, to fly to Honduras. And our flight was canceled, and so we tried to call, and they said the next available representative will be with you in approximately 2 hours.
Oh, my.
And so we said, this is ridiculous. Let's drive to the airport anyways. It's an hour away. We'd still get serviced faster than waiting for that phone call.
Mm-hmm.
So we get all the kids, everybody in the vehicles, all our luggage, and head up to the airport. And the high moment for me was we're up at 3 a.m. We have 7 kids who are up at 3 a.m., which is never a good situation. And they sat for 4 hours at the airport while my husband and my in-laws tried to get us on different flights. They didn't complain about being tired. They didn't complain about being hungry. They were incredible. They weren't fighting with each other. And just on a normal day, that doesn't happen, let alone when you get up at 3 a.m. So I just thought, wow, we've done something right. The kids are incredible. We're out in public, and we're not having to scold them or anything. It was just a humbling experience, actually. And obviously it was the Lord more than anything we have done. But we were just super excited to see at that moment that the kids rose to the occasion. And,
Definitely.
It was great.
Yeah, that is a high moment. Anytime you get to see your children carrying through on principles that you've been teaching them for years on their own, where it wasn't like enforced by you, but they're choosing to do those things. Definitely fall in high moment categories.
I completely agree, yes.
All right. Then on the other side, what about a low moment? I jokingly say where you think, oh, my kids are going to need counseling. But, just one of those moments when that as the parent, you drop the ball or, like you're the one who caused the problem.
Right. I think 2 things come to mind for me. The first one is kind of ties into my answer previously, but right after my divorce, I felt horrible that our kids had to go through that. I had a 18-month-old, a 3-year-old, a 4-year-old, and a 5-year-old.
Wow.
And they grew up in a Christian home. We were believers. This doesn't happen to believers. Like, what is going on?
Right.
This is not right for my kids to have to go through. And so I kind of switched the mom switch to friend switch. And I wanted to give them more leniency and not be consistent in making them do what was expected, because they were going through such a hard emotional time too.
Right. You were trying to compensate for the difficulty they were having.
That's exactly it. And the compensation did not work as planned, because as much as kids hate it, they want boundaries.
Right.
And so my kids, I want to say they didn't rebel, but they just were awful. They did not listen to me anymore. There was a point when I had moved in with my parents and my sister, and I felt like until my dad would say, your mother asked you to do this, they did not obey. And so I realized then that, all right, they want boundaries, they want consistency. Me being the friend to a 2-year-old is going to be way more a counseling issue in the future than me being a parent who, I'm such a mean mom, I wouldn't let you have brownies for breakfast.
Right.
Yeah. The other part of that came to mind when you first asked this question was, I've had some of our kids who are younger, and, I miss a baseball game or something because I'm busy up at camp, make the comment before, Mom, you're so busy serving everybody else's kids that you're missing out on your own. And that will stab you right in the heart.
Yes.
Because you are trying just to provide an environment. Our ministry mission statement is to create an environment for spiritual growth and change. And I realized for a while I was so invested in camp and spending all my free moments up there that I was investing so much in other people's kids. My own were being not neglected, but were feeling shorted by it. And so it was a huge eye-opening moment when I thought, man, my kids are going to need counseling because their mom was so busy sharing the Lord with other kids that they're missing out on that same aspect.
That's such a hard balance when you're in a consuming mission like that, to be what you think you're supposed to be for the ministry, but also not to lose sight of what your first mission is, which is your own children. It's so hard.
That's exactly right. My husband, Greg, the director, is very good about saying, you know what, I know you could do this role, but right now your mission is at home, and you need to be at home with the kids. So, for example, I am in the kitchen this summer. I am the co-cook. That way I don't have to be there all the time because our kids need me.
Right.
But we need to fill that role as well. So we have a team of us doing it so that at this season of life, I'm not missing out on everything our kids are
That's
doing as well.
a good compromise, and it's wonderful that Greg is on board with that too, and that it's something that you are working on together and not by yourself, or not that you're not pushing for it for yourself.
Right.
That he's as aware of it as you are and can help each other with that. So that's fantastic.
He actually pushes me more to make sure I'm home and not shorting the kids
Right.
than I do. Just because a wife's role, you see how much your husband has on his plate, you want to help.
Right.
And so he consistently is reminding me that we'll get it done, but you need to be with the kids right now.
Yeah, that's good. And in the long run, he's right. The things will get done, and over the years, then your children will be better for it. That will be better for them. And sometimes we're like, yeah, but it won't get done. And it's like, no, yes, it will. Like you just, it'll get filled in somehow. But the children being set aside doesn't get filled in. And so, it's really important to keep that perspective while they're young and around you all the time.
Exactly. Yes. Yep.
But it can be hard to do.
It can. It helps that we have several friends in ministry, and we have seen what can happen on the other end if your kids grow to resent the ministry.
Right.
And so we keep that in mind very often, that, you know what, our kids are our biggest priority, and they are on loan from the Lord, and we have this limited window with them.
Right.
And we are going to do all we can in our power to tap into every moment we have with them.
And they need to know that that's where they stand in things too. And exactly. I think it's sometimes we have to be intentional about making sure that they specifically know that, so that that there are times that their preferences do have to be set aside, but that should be the exception, not the rule.
Exactly.
So that they don't always feel like other things, other people, the mission came first, because a lot of times then as they grow older, that gets transferred into harsh feelings against God, even though that's not really like where it belongs, but that's often what it gets translated into. So it's really important that we, as the parents, take that seriously.
Yes, I completely agree.
So when you were thinking about it, what came to mind as your favorite mothering story?
Well, my favorite mothering story probably would be November-ish, the year my husband and I just got married, so about 2012, 2013. Our kids decided they wanted to gift the extended family with homemade music videos. And so what they did is they had each family member give a list of their 3 favorite songs, their favorite Disney song, their favorite Christian worship song, and their favorite just song of all times that comes to mind. And then they picked from those and made a special music video for each person. So for example, my brother-in-law Matthew loves Hakuna Matata. And so my kids went up to the pond and had this whole choreographed dance. They were in hammocks. They had milk in crystal goblet glasses. They were floating in the pond in the paddle boats. It was incredible. That's one of my favorites that they did. But the hours that they spent making one music video for each of my sisters, for each of my parents, for my in-laws, took hours and several weeks. And the fact that I got to see them doing it and laughing and having a good time and just building relationships together, I'd be standing on the top part of a ladder that says "Do not stand," get aerial shots when they're doing snowball fights for the Let It Go Frozen theme song, just doing something totally out of the ordinary as a family together. It was incredible. And honestly, there are a lot of times that I'll still sit down and just pop in all the DVDs of those that they made and think, what a blessing that is going to be for them in the future to see that time invested together. And it was so fun.
Yeah, that is really fun. I was just going to ask if you had permanent copies of them, digital copies or whatever. You may want to have it in multiple forms, so there's no way that it could ever get lost, because that's exactly priceless and obviously not replaceable if something were to happen to it. That's so much fun.
Yep, everybody got the Burns DVD copy in their stockings that year. But there was a video message at the beginning of each one, like, dedicated to Aunt Christy, we love you. And then it'd be the Mulan, I'll make a man out of you song. And they're all dressed up in bathrobes as the guys from Mulan. And it was just, it's incredible. We're so excited. We love them.
That's so fun. All right, what do you do? And I know this one's a really tricky one. I'm almost like, oh my, do you even have an answer for this? I so remember when we were at camp and what it looked like day to day. So, that being said, what do you do for self-care to make time for yourself?
That actually is one of the blessings that come in disguise into divorce, I feel like, for our family.
Okay.
My kids go 2 afternoons a week from school until 8 o'clock at night with my ex-husband.
Okay.
And then, like every other weekend, there's a bit of a rotation that's in place.
Okay.
And so those are natural built-in times that I can do whatever I want
Yes.
without feeling guilty that I'm shorting the kids.
Mm.
So it can be everything from I just read a book or take a nap, take a bubble bath. There are times, like right now, that when they're gone, I'm over at the program director's house and painting it for the new program director we hired, and not feeling guilty that I'm doing more camp stuff on my non-office cooking work hours.
Right.
It can be grocery shopping without kids getting to pick what they want.
Yes.
Just any of those little things. But I do know that even before my divorce, in my first marriage, I was married 7 years, and you are a better mom when you take that time for yourself. And so I got past the point of feeling guilty for doing those things. I'm a Mary Kay consultant, so I would go to my Mary Kay weekly meetings just for that break and to feed into me as a person and be something besides just mom. And you come back encouraged and refreshed and excited to see your kids.
That's true. Yeah.
So there's a fine balance between doing that too often and never doing it. But I think it is vital as a mom to make that time and not spend it completely feeling guilty that I'm such a bad mom. I went shopping and with my girlfriends and left the kids at home. You know what? We are better moms when we take time for ourselves.
And that's so true. All right, so that kind of leads into the next one, but just the same. What would you give as a word of encouragement to other moms?
Wow. I would give the same stuff that people said to me that I thought was foolish 7 years ago. Basically, they told you this is a phase, this is a window of life that is short. And those nights when you are up with a newborn for feedings every 2 hours, or you are up with, a toddler with night terrors, or all those things are so fleeting when you look back at how fast they're gone. My baby is 8 right now, and I just feel like I just had him. And so I can think back to growing up, and my parents were at all my sporting events. They were at everything I ever did. And my mom had this cross-stitch in our kitchen because she used to like that counted cross-stitch stuff. And it said, cobwebs and dishes will wait, but my kids won't. And that has always stuck in my head that, you know what, there are always going to be dishes in the sink, but my son is not always going to want me to lay down and rub his back while he goes to sleep at night. Right. And so if I take the 10 minutes to do that now, it's way more beneficial for my parenting and my son's mental health than it is if he goes to bed knowing that the dishes from dinner were already washed and put away.
Right.
There's that limited amount of time that we have with them. And do I want my kids to look back and say, wow, our house was always spotless? Or do I want them to look back at the memories we made together,
Yeah.
It is very difficult, though. I will say it is very difficult in those days that are so monotonous.
Right.
The picky eater that you're making, it seems 3 different meals just because you're leaving this out for this kid and this out for that kid, and it's all the same meal, but it can't be touching. And those days seem like they're never going to end, but they do so fast. And, I visit my sister who has a newborn and 2 small toddler-like children, and I miss the getting up at the night because you had those snuggles uninterrupted, and you could do your Bible study uninterrupted. And so it is a phase, but it goes so fast.
Right.
And just enjoy the monotony because one day it's not going to be there anymore.
Right. I remember when my kids were little being like, oh, people would say, oh, enjoy it. It goes so fast. And in those moments, you're like, nothing has gone fast for me in a long time.
Exactly. The only thing that goes fast is the time between one meal prep and the next meal prep. You know what I mean?
Right. Or from the time one person falls asleep to the time they wake up. That was the only time that went fast.
Exactly.
And I just, looking back at it now, I can see it's true. the time does go fast. The years go fast. The days when the kids are small, the days were slow, but the years were fast. And now looking at my kids who are rapidly approaching, being out of the house, I can see why people say that the time goes so fast. And so, we would encourage those listening who have small children to try to make the discipline of not wishing the time away, because it is true. It is a season, and those seasons, all of the seasons do pass, and you can't get them back again. And so, we want to value them for what they are.
That's completely right. I can say that there were some super dark days right in the midst of my divorce.
Yes.
And the days being long was never more true. And
Right.
honestly, I didn't think about getting through the next day. I would have to tell myself, we are going to get through this next hour.
Right.
And some days, we are going to get through these next 10 minutes.
Right.
And we are going to get through. And so just break it down into something achievable that
Right.
you feel still successful, that you are doing something right. So, yeah, I remember those long days, though, and they are not to be minimized for sure, but they do pass in the blink of an eye.
Right. And those long days, although sometimes it feels like endless monotony and the same thing over and over. And, sometimes you can even feel like, does this really have value? The truth of it is the sum of all of those moments have so much value. And, like the individual ones may not feel very valuable, but the sum of them all is so foundational in your child's heart and mind. And so they do have value, even when they don't feel like they do.
Exactly. It totally shapes who they are. I mean, my kids can look back and say, I'm so glad my mom was never having to go to work when I was little, because she got to come on all our field trips and all that stuff. So they don't remember that we were in pajamas until 4 o'clock some days.
Right.
But,
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate you sharing your story, and it was really very nice to talk to you.
Yes, I enjoyed it. I was, like I said, a little nervous, but I just know that there are several moms that I could benefit from hearing about, and so I hope that somebody else can relate and, maybe just get something out of this that will encourage their heart.
Right, and that's exactly it. That's the mission behind doing this, is that we all share and notice our commonalities and glean from each other's wisdom and experiences, and just find ourselves refreshed and encouraged from listening to somebody else.
Exactly. Well, thank you for doing all this. This is an incredible idea.
You're welcome. You have a nice day.
You too.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us on the No Mom is an Island podcast. We hope that it was an encouragement to you wherever you are in your mothering journey. If you would like to share your story or would like to see something added to our interviews, please contact us at nomomisaniland@gmail.com or send us a message on Instagram or Facebook. You can also find more information in the episode description located underneath today's episode. If you have enjoyed listening to the stories of other moms, there are 3 ways you can help. You can share the episodes with your family and friends on Facebook or Instagram. You can leave a rating and review for the podcast to help boost the podcast's visibility. And you can consider contributing to the monthly expenses of hosting this podcast by going to the crowdfunding link in the episode description. Thank you.